As a requirement for my class, we had to make a presentation about using technology in the classroom. This meant creating a lesson in which some students were allowed to use technology and some students were not allowed to use technology. This is my presentation by Christina Giardini. The first step in doing my project was the planning process. Due to the fact that I am currently subbing, the first step in completing my project was to find a classroom to work in. Since I regularly sub in a particular school, it was easy to find a teacher who was willing to work with me. Once I found the teacher, we had to collaborate. We had to set up a date and a time that would work for both of us for me to come in and present my lessons. Then I had to choose a topic. I had to know what they were studying already, and I had to find an activity that would work for both the teacher and myself. The lesson. I worked with a 5th grade classroom, and we decided to do a social studies lesson on explorers. Students were given a specific European explorer, and they had to study and research the life and explorations of that explorer. The time was one day, approximately 120 minutes. There was 20 minutes set aside for the pre-assessment. Students spent 60 minutes doing their actual research. They spent 20 minutes working on their post-assessment, and we had about a 20-minute discussion at the end of the lesson. For the non-technology part of the lesson, students were given a specific explorer to research. However, they were not allowed to use any technology. They were allowed to use the social studies textbook and the media center. In the media center, they were allowed to use books and the card catalog. I and the librarian were there to help. For the technology part of the lesson plan, students were given an explorer to research as well. However, these students were given a computer and the internet to work with. I had previously set up Google and Enchanted Learning on the computers for them to use. I was also very interested in seeing how many students used Wikipedia as one of their sources. Students also needed to know how to click on hyperlinks to be able to click to find more information. I was also there to help these students. The grade level content expectations that this project covered. The social studies expectations for 5th grade covered the European exploration, and it also covered the 5th grade expectation of case studies of individual explorers. For the technology expectations, creativity and innovation, students were required to participate in discussions about technology and understand that these technologies are a result of human creativity. Research and information fluency, students had to search strategies to locate information. They had to use digital tools to find, organize, and evaluate information. They had to understand and discuss that websites may contain inaccurate information. And they had to understand that using information from a single internet source may result in reporting untrue facts. I found this to be very interesting because I actually had a student who found conflicting information about the year that their explorer was born. For technology operations and concepts, students had to describe how technology has changed life at school and at home. This was actually a very big part of our discussion that we had at the end, and a lot of students did find that there was a lot of changes that technology has brought. Most students did not even know how to research out of a book. On the day of the lesson, the first thing I did was give an introduction to the activity. I let students know what we were going to do, and then students took their pre-assessment. I did not grade the pre-assessment. I was more interested in finding out what students already knew about their Explorer, and I found that most students did not know much at all about their Explorer, if anything. Then students were given time to conduct their research. We went down to the Media Center and to the Computer Lab. The Computer Lab is located right in the Media Center, so it made it very easy for me to be able to walk around and help both groups. Once the research was done, we went back to the classroom and students completed the post-assessment. The post-assessment was exactly the same as the pre-assessment, as you'll see on the right, and I didn't grade this either. I was interested more in finding out what group was able to complete the post-assessment more accurately. And then last we had our discussion. We discussed what groups were able to find the most information. We also discussed what group would be the preference, if you would prefer to be in the technology or the non-technology group. The non-technology results. I found a lot of confusion for the students who were not allowed to use the technology. One student said to me, "I found all the information I could in the social studies book. Now what?" The student had no idea what to do after they had found everything they could from one book. They had no idea how to find a new book to use. I also found that students had a lack of available information to them. One student said, "I only found one book on my Explorer, and there was only a few sentences about him." Needless to say, that student did not complete their research guide. I had another student say, "I found only one book, but I think it is already checked out." I did not have anybody in the non-technology group complete the research guide. My technology group, students were able to find information quickly. One student said, "I liked how on the computer I could find different websites for different information." Students were able to find a lot of information on the computer. I had one student say, "I liked how there was 10 different websites on my guide. In a book, it would just be 2 or 3 pages." And the interesting thing I found about that was that that was true for the students who were in the non-technology group. They really were able to find maybe just 2 or 3 pages in one book about their Explorer. I was interested to see how many students used Wikipedia, and I found that a lot of students used Wikipedia in doing their research in the technology group. We later had a discussion of Wikipedia, and students decided that they probably wouldn't use that website as a sole source of information in the future. I had 100% of the students in the technology group complete their research guide. Some interesting things that I had some students say to me in our ending discussion. I had one student say, "I liked being in the computer group because it was more updated. They don't publish books every year." I thought that was very interesting to hear a child say that and understand the reality of it. I had another student say, "I did not like reading because it was boring. It did not tell as much detail." I thought that was funny because when I was growing up, reading was basically the only way that we were able to do research, and now students have more options. I had another student say, "It could be harder to find books in one place, like a certain library, on a person, and if it wasn't there, you couldn't do research." And some students actually came across that problem. And one other student said, "On the computer, you knew you were going to read about a certain person. In a book, you would have to find a certain page," which the students in my non-technology group definitely agreed with that quote.